I think I view libraries as kind of an equalizer among people, and it's a force for good in our country. So I'm very happy to be working in a library. It's the only job I've ever had where people thank me all day long for helping them. And, you know, I really do get a sense that I can make a small difference in people's lives, just connecting them with information or providing resources. In Lowell, there is a fair amount of folks that don't have computers or printers. And so we bridge that digital divide fairly frequently. And that's one of the first things that we've been seeing people coming back into the library on a limited basis just these past few weeks after we had to shut down because of the pandemic. You know, we're allowing people back in to use computers, and especially people that need to print out. And just yesterday, I helped 5 people in 1 hour help print out, you know, school registration forms for their kids and things like that. So, and each one of them were doing that. So, you know, it's an important resource that I think sometimes gets put on the back burner. People forget how helpful we try to be, and anyway. So, history of the Pollard Memorial Library. The Lowell City Library was one of the first to be established wholly by a municipality in America. It was founded actually in 1844, which is earlier than the Boston Public Library, which claims to be the first large municipal library. The library wasn't free when it was first established. There was a nickel a year registration fee, but it was open to any resident in Lowell. It wasn't, at the time, a lot of libraries were of certain professions, like lawyers would pool resources to have what's called a social library. So they have a social law library or a social medical library. And the notion of a public library was something that was new around the time that Lowell was founded. It was founded as a one-room lending library in the old City Hall building. If people know, down on Merrimack Street where the Enterprise Bank building is, that red brick building. It was in there. Funny little story, in the 1860s, it gained a motto, Fiat Lux, which means let there be light. And the reason why they adopted that motto was not only because of the light-giving properties that knowledge has, but it was also because there was a skylight in the room that needed to be fixed because there was literally less light in the room. It needed to be replaced. And so the mayor at the time adopted that motto for the library, and there was a city seal commissioned in the 1860s. When it was first founded, it was called the Lowell School Library. They changed the name in the 1860s to the Lowell City Library. And then in 1980, the name was changed to its current name, the Pollard Memorial Library, named after the late Mayor Samuel S. Pollard. I should say, too, it's been a little while since I gave this speech, so I think I'm a little all over the place, but in 1893 was when, between 1890 and 1893 was when the current building that the library's in was erected, was built. And before that, the library sort of bounced around downtown, different places. It was in a Mechanics Hall Association building and a few other buildings downtown. But then the building that it's in now, the original name for that building, and I think sort of still the name for the building is Memorial Hall. It was built alongside City Hall at the time because a petition of soldiers and sailor veterans from the Civil War asked the city to build a hall for them, and the city agreed. And so most of the building, when it was first opened, was reading rooms and function halls, and sort of over the next 100 or so years, the library slowly kind of took over the building. There was a major renovation of the building in 2002 that sort of leaves you with the building you have today. So I'm trying to adapt my normal library tour pattern to a, talking to a group on Zoom. I wish I could show you the grand building because it's, it doesn't translate as well when you're just talking about it on your front porch. But if any of you at any time would like a tour of the building, and I can show you, there's a great art collection, public art collection in the building. I'd be happy to do that anytime if you want to reach out. And so my general function in the library, like I said, was adult programming. Some programming varies from year to year, and COVID-19 buffaloed a lot of our programming this year. We've had to sort of transition into some online programming, things like book groups. We have two book discussion groups that are still going strong on Zoom, but almost everything else really has just been put on hold. Our youth services program has actually done quite a bit with online summer reading, and they've been giving out craft kits at the library, and our teen librarian, I think, is giving out Dungeons and Dragons sets for kids. And so, we can't welcome them in to do programming in our meeting room just yet, but the library has a foundation board that raises money for projects that are outside the operating expenses, the general operating expenses of the library. And every year they have a large author night. And they attract a major name in to give. It's typically a really nice affair with, hors d'oeuvres and wine, and it's up in the Memorial Hall sort of grand area in the second floor of the library. This year, it's unfortunately going to be moving to a virtual event because we can't utilize the space. It had been originally scheduled for April and then was pushed back. So the author is a woman named Jenna Blum, B-L-U-M, and that event is going to be happening on September the 15th. I think that I'm not 100% sure of the details of the virtual event, but I know that they are planning on doing a virtual event, and they've sent out invitations along those lines. So Jenna Blum is the author of the novel Those Who Save Us, Storm Chasers, and the Lost Family, and she's from Boston, and she's very heavily involved in the Grub Street writers. So she should be a good draw. I think the tickets are going pretty well before the pandemic, and hopefully the virtual crowd is there for her. I know virtual events. The other thing that I'll say is, as this pandemic has worn on, people's patience for virtual programming has diminished. Interest in it. Attendance isn't what it was. I don't know if you're seeing that with your own group, but this is a challenging time to have to plan or host large scale events. So anyway, we'll make it through one way or another. One of the things that we are pushing is I shouldn't say pushing, but another virtual event that we're offering to patrons there's a national book club called the Big Library Read through our Overdrive ebook vendor, and they're going to be doing a virtual discussion of a book called The Darwin Affair by Tim Mason, and we're going to host sort of a local chapter of that. So ebooks and audiobooks have been pretty popular during the pandemic. The thing that people sometimes don't realize is that we subscribe to, we get our ebooks and audiobooks through a third-party vendor, and they sort of operate like physical books do. So only a certain number of copies are available for checkout at a given time, and only a certain amount of people can have them. And then once they're the good news is that once they're due, they'll return. They'll sort of do the get smart, like the message will self-destruct. And so you don't have to worry about late fees. But sometimes especially for the more popular titles, the wait can be considerable for an ebook or an audiobook. So what Overdrive has done is they periodically pick a book and make it unlimited borrowing. So as many people across the country that want to download this book can download it anytime they want during this period, and then participate if they would like in this virtual book club. Darwin Affair is fiction. It takes place in the 18th century, and it's sort of a murder mystery. And then some other things that are cooking up on the horizon. We can't talk too much about the Lowell Library without talking about Jack Kerouac, who was a patron and claimed that the reason why he got A's and B's his senior year of high school is that he would cut class once a week and go over to the library and read the books that interested him, or read books to try to impress himself about what he was reading. Anyway, the centennial of his birth is coming up. That would be 2022. So the library we're on the, I should say as a representative of the library, I'm on the Centennial Planning Committee, along with Lowell Celebrates Kerouac, the city's events coordinator, UMass Lowell, Middlesex, and a bunch of local nonprofits to try to come up with a big fun program for 2022 to celebrate our hometown literary icon. And then we're also on in the planning stages for Lowell's bicentennial, which is coming up in 2026. So, and it's been strange to not have patrons in the library. Like, everything has been different. But you never I always think about, especially urban libraries, or urban libraries like Lowell, that it's sort of like the Wild West. You never know who's going to come in the door and what's going to happen. It sort of feels a little bit like that in some of the projects. Like some of the things that, I get engaged with, I would never have anticipated. The design team for the new rebuilt Lowell High School reached out to ask for research help on the history of Lowell High, and then also to analyze the artifacts that they had, to evaluate to see whether or not they could utilize them in their redesign. And a lot of that team was not only working remote, but working remote from another state, so couldn't even come in to see the things. And so, so the first week I came back into the library, which is the beginning of July, I was over at Lowell High, looking at all their artifacts and things like that. And it's a very interesting place to work. It might seem like a quiet place, but there's always some interesting things going on.